Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today. There's something that can really steal our peace,
Yeah.
worry,
Mm-hmm.
and exploring this really fascinating idea using the hashtag 5-second rule,
Right.
not just for like physical actions,
Yeah.
but to fundamentally change your mind and maybe interrupt that habit of worrying.
That's exactly it. And our source material for this deep dive, it's specifically from excerpts in Chapter 12 from the book, The 5-Second Rule. Transform your life, work, and confidence with everyday courage.
Okay. And our mission here, what are we trying to pull out?
Well, we want to extract the core insights, really. How does this, simple rule, when you point it inward at your thoughts,
Yeah.
combine with other stuff, like focusing on gratitude,
Yeah.
how does that help you break that worry cycle? Regain control of your mental space.
And we're pulling this straight from the author's own experiences and the research they talk about, right?
Exactly. Personal journey, plus the science bits.
It's funny, when you see the author maybe on TV or giving talks,
Yeah.
they seem so confident.
Right. You'd think they were born that way.
Yeah.
But the book's really open about that not being the case.
Yeah.
Not at all. The author actually describes themselves as a loudmouth extrovert who was plagued by deep insecurity for most of their adult life.
Wow. So that confidence we see?
It was built. They're clear on that. Not a birthright, but something constructed piece by piece.
And alongside that insecurity, there was this pretty major struggle with anxiety.
Oh, yeah. For over 25 years, the book says.
That's a long time.
It is. And they share some really intense details in the source, like debilitating postpartum depression after their first daughter, Sawyer, was born.
All right.
It was so severe, they apparently couldn't be left alone with her for 2 whole months.
Gosh.
And they were taking Zoloft for panic attacks for nearly 2 decades.
20 years. Wow.
Yeah. They described that struggle with their own thoughts as real and, at times, terrifying.
So, okay, the 5-second rule, it started out as a tool for action, right? Like hitting the snooze button less, starting that task you dread.
Exactly. And it worked for that. It definitely built courage, built confidence in doing things.
But that internal stuff, the anxiety.
That was still there, simmering beneath the surface, is how they put it. The focus was more on managing it, coping.
Okay, so here's the pivot point then, right? The shift.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, according to the source. About 4 years before writing this chapter, the author has this kind of light bulb moment. If the rule could change physical habits, could it change mental habits?
So treating things like anxiety, panic, fear, almost like bad habits the brain learned.
Precisely. Treating them as patterns the mind just keeps repeating. Could the rule break those patterns?
And did it work, according to the book?
Well, they claim, quite powerfully actually, that yes, applying the rule this way did work. Started with the habit of worrying, then tackled the broader anxiety and even a specific fear of flying.
And the claim is pretty huge, isn't it? The source says they consider themselves cured.
That's the word they use, yeah. Cured of anxiety. They report not having taken Zoloft in years, being panic attack free,
Wow.
no longer having that habit of worrying, and the fear of flying is just gone.
Okay, so how? What's the technique for the mind? Is it still 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
It is. It starts with the familiar countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But here's the key addition for mental habits. You immediately follow that count by consciously directing your mind somewhere else, towards a solution or just a different, maybe more positive thought, away from the worry.
So interrupt and redirect.
Exactly. Interrupt the pattern, redirect the focus.
And the author feels this mental application of the rule was significant.
More than significant. They describe this ability to transform their own mind using the rule as, and I quote, the single greatest thing they've ever done to improve their quality of life.
That's a massive statement.
It is. Led to feeling the happiest and most optimistic they've ever been. Feeling like their mind is finally working for them, not against them.
Okay, let's dig into the worry habit itself then. The source argues that ending that habit, that alone, could have the single biggest positive impact on your life.
Yeah, it's a bold claim, but they really lean into it. And part of the argument is that worrying isn't innate. It's a taught behavior.
Taught? How so?
Well, think about all the messages we get, especially as kids. Be careful. Wear a hat. You'll catch a cold. Don't sit so close to the TV.
Huh. Yeah, I remember those. You learn to look for potential problems everywhere.
Exactly. You're trained to anticipate the negative. And the book points out As adults, we end up spending so much mental energy worrying about stuff that's completely outside our control anyway.
Which feels like such a waste when you think about it.
It absolutely is. And this connects to some really striking research the author brings in by Dr. Carl Pillemer at Cornell University.
Oh, I think I've heard of this. The Legacy Project.
That's the one. He interviewed 1,200 senior citizens, asking them about life lessons, regrets.
And what was the big takeaway?
Well, Pillemer was reportedly shocked by how common one particular regret was.
Okay.
It wasn't about jobs they didn't take or relationships. It was wishing they hadn't spent so much of their precious lifetime worrying.
Wow.
Just worrying.
Yeah. Their collective advice, quoted in the source, is blunt. Worry is an enormous waste of your precious and limited lifetime.
That really lands, doesn't it? Especially coming from people with that much life experience.
It really does.
So, okay, it's a waste. Maybe it's learned. How do you actually stop doing it if it feels so automatic?
Well, the source describes worry as a kind of default setting. It's where your mind automatically goes when you're not paying attention, when you're just drifting.
Like a mental rut.
Exactly. So the key isn't necessarily stopping the very first flicker of a worried thought that might be impossible. The key is catching yourself when you start drifting down that path.
Catching the drift.
Yeah. And in that moment of catching it, that's when you deploy the rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to basically regain mental control.
It's like hitting the brakes on that automatic thought train. Precisely. That countdown is the jolt. It interrupts the automatic pathway your brain wants to take towards the problem, towards the worry. It forces you off that track before the negative emotion really builds momentum and takes over. You get back in the driver's seat, mentally speaking.
Okay, let's make this concrete. There's an example in the book, right, about the author's husband and a motorcycle.
Yes, a really vivid one. Her husband got his motorcycle license, bought a small, used bike, nothing fancy.
Okay.
And she describes watching him pull out of the driveway, just, slowly, maybe going 10 miles an hour on this little bike. And within 5 seconds, literally 5 seconds, her mind had already jumped. Full spiral.
Worry mode.
Totally. Right. Picturing him getting hit by a car, becoming a statistic, already imagining getting that dreaded call from the police, all in 5 seconds.
Oh, man. I think a lot of people can relate to that. That immediate jump to the worst case scenario, especially with loved ones.
Absolutely. But here's the insight the author had right then. Realizing this worry, it isn't actually doing anything productive. It's not keeping him safe. It's not going to prevent an accident.
Right.
All it's doing is making her feel anxious and awful. And it's actually stealing the enjoyment of that simple moment. Seeing him happy, trying something new, robbing the present.
So what did she do? Use the rule?
Yep. Caught the worry spiral starting, did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 count.
And then redirected?
And then deliberately shifted her focus. Made herself think about him smiling as he rode away, enjoying himself.
It's interesting, though. The source mentioned she didn't worry when he cycled long distances, like 40 or 50 miles.
Yeah, isn't that curious? The bicycle felt normal, routine maybe, but the motorcycle, even just pulling out of the driveway, triggered that worried default instantly.
Shows how specific and almost illogical these worry triggers can be sometimes.
Exactly. And it highlights how insidious that default setting is. The author admits some days they have to consciously fight that drift and use the rule to redirect their thoughts, like a dozen or more times. It's constant vigilance almost.
It can be, yeah. There's another quick example about her daughters coming back from a trip to Peru.
Oh, yeah. Same thing.
Same pattern.
Yep.
Mind immediately jumps to plane crashes, missed flights, falling off a cliff somewhere, bus accidents, lost luggage, stranded, you name it.
The full catastrophe scenario.
The works. And the technique was the same. Catch it starting, oh, no, you don't. Count down and deliberately picture the positive outcome instead. Picturing the girls arriving home safely, excitedly telling stories about their trip that night.
Okay, so interrupting the negative spiral. But then the book makes this kind of surprising point that worry isn't always triggered by obviously negative things.
Right. This part really stood out to me too. Often the source says worry gets triggered by moments of intense happiness or deep love.
Wait, happiness triggers worry? That seems counterintuitive. It does, doesn't it? But think about it. Those moments when you feel the most joy, the most connected, the most vulnerable because things feel so good, apparently those can be prime moments for the worry habit to sneak in and hijack things. And it happens incredibly subtly, incredibly fast.
Okay, I need an example for this one.
The prom dress story. It's perfect. The author's at the mall with her 17-year-old daughter, Sawyer. They've been trying on prom dresses for hours. You know how that goes.
Oh, I can imagine. Exhausting.
Right. So finally, Sawyer calls her mom over to the dressing room. She steps out wearing this like beautiful peach and pink gown. She sees herself in the mirror and she just looks stunning, radiant.
Right.
And the author describes being hit by this absolute tidal wave of love, just this overwhelming feeling, so powerful. It reminded her of when Sawyer was just a tiny baby.
Okay, that's beautiful. So where does the worry come in?
Immediately after,
Yeah.
like nanoseconds after that peak feeling of love and joy, the worries just flooded it.
What kind of worries?
Future stuff. Thinking about Sawyer leaving for college soon, getting married someday, becoming a new mom herself, maybe living far away.
Oh, wow.
And then it turned inward. Time passing too fast, the author getting older, feeling like her own life was somehow over. It all just cascaded.
And this all happened while Sawyer's standing there in the dress.
Right there. The author felt completely overwhelmed with sadness, with this sense of loss, and she started crying.
Oh, no. What did Sawyer think?
Well, naturally, Sawyer saw the tears and thought her mom hated the dress.
Oh, bless her.
But the author knew, no, the tears weren't about the dress. They were from fear. Fear of Sawyer growing up, fear of time slipping away, fear of the future, basically. That worry habit completely ambushed the beautiful present moment. It just robbed the joy, as the author puts it.
That's actually quite profound. How a moment of pure love could trigger such deep anxiety about loss.
It really is. And the author apparently found this experience resonated later when reading Brené Brown.
Ah, Brené Brown. What was the connection?
In her book, Daring Greatly, Brown talks about this exact phenomenon, feeling a rush of worst-case scenarios, like picturing tragedy, precisely when you feel moments of intense joy or connection. She found it's incredibly common.
Really? Why did that happen?
Well, Brown's insight, which the author includes, is powerful. She says it's because we're trying to beat vulnerability to the punch.
Beat vulnerability to the punch.
Meaning when things feel so good, we feel vulnerable, exposed. So subconsciously, we almost rehearse tragedy or loss. We anticipate the pain, maybe hoping it'll lessen the blow if something bad does happen later. It's like a preemptive defense mechanism.
Wow. Okay. That makes a strange kind of sense. But it also steals the good moments.
Exactly. And that's the core takeaway from the source here. You don't have to follow your mind down that rabbit hole. You don't have to let worry drag you into sadness or doubt or fear. The author quotes someone named Hein who sent them a message saying something like, 99.999% of the time, the scary stuff was just a fake reality I created in my head.
A fake reality.
Yeah. And that 5-second window, that's your chance. That's when you can step out of that fake reality and reclaim control.
So back to the prom dress moment. How did the author use the rule there specifically? What was the mechanism?
Okay, so feeling that wave of sadness and fear, seeing Sawyer's worried face, she silently started counting. 5, 4, 3.
The countdown.
The countdown. And she describes it as instantly effective. It yanked me out of my head, she says, and planted me in the present moment. Just switched the gears, interrupted that worry habit from completely derailing her presence.
But you mentioned earlier there's more to the mental technique than just the count.
Yes, this is crucial. For redirecting the mind, the source adds a vital step after the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
You immediately ask yourself 2 very simple questions.
Which are?
What am I grateful for in this moment? And what do I want to remember?
Gratitude and memory.
Okay.
Why those questions?
Well, the book argues these aren't just, nice thoughts. They actually have a biological effect. They force your brain to shift its focus. By making yourself search for things you're grateful for, right then and there, you're literally moving your brain's activity away from the worry centers and towards areas linked with positivity, reward, and well-being.
So it's like actively changing the channel in your brain.
Kind of, yeah. And the author mentions neuroscientist Alex Korb, who points out that the act of feeling grateful actually changes your brain chemistry. It activates a region in the brainstem that produces dopamine.
Dopamine. The feel-good chemical.
Exactly. The pleasure and reward molecule. So focusing on gratitude gives you this little neurochemical boost, reinforcing the new mental pathway, the one focused on presence and appreciation, not worry. It makes the positive thought literally feel more rewarding than the worry spiral.
Okay, that makes sense. So in the dressing room, after 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, she asked herself those questions.
What am I grateful for? What do I want to remember?
And what were the answers?
The answers came pretty quickly, she says. Grateful for having such an incredible young woman for a daughter. And yeah, maybe a little humorously, after 3 long hours, grateful she finally found a dress she loved.
Huh. Fair enough.
And just doing that, the count, the questions, the gratitude at work, the worries vanished.
Really? Just like that?
Just like that. She was able to take a deep breath, feel fully present again. She met Sawyer's eyes in the mirror, and the compliment she gave then was totally genuine, totally heartfelt.
What did she say?
Something like, "Luke is going to have a heart attack. You look absolutely gorgeous." The moment was saved, reclaimed from the worry.
Wow. That's a powerful illustration of the whole process. The trigger intense joy, leading to vulnerability and fear.
Right.
The hijacks by the worry habit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tool.
Mm-hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Plus those 2 specific questions grounded in gratitude to interrupt the habit and anchor back in the present.
You got it. That's the core mechanism described. And the source includes this one final quote that fits perfectly. "It's okay to be scared. Being scared means you're about to do something really, really brave."
And using the rule against your own internal worry habits. That definitely feels like a brave act, doesn't it? Reclaiming your own mind.
Absolutely.
So let's circle back then, wrap up our mission for this deep dive. What have we really unpacked here?
Well, I think the central insight from this chapter is pretty clear. The 5-second rule isn't just for launching yourself out of bed or starting a difficult conversation.
Right. It's a mental tool, too.
A powerful one. You can use that simple 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown to interrupt ingrained mental habits, especially that pervasive habit of worrying.
And the key is the follow-through, right? The redirection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Countdown, then immediately pivot your focus.
Yeah.
And the technique highlighted here is using gratitude, asking, what am I grateful for and what do I want to remember? To pull yourself firmly back into the present moment.
And understanding worry, not as like a character flaw, but as a learned default behavior. That's empowering too, isn't it?
Hugely. Because if it's a habit, even a deeply ingrained one, it means you can change it. Or at least manage it much more effectively.
It takes work, though.
Yeah.
That conscious effort the author mentioned, catching the drift the second it starts.
Yes. It's about building that awareness muscle. Noticing the worry, then having that simple trigger 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the redirection plan ready to go.
Okay, so here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive today. Just consider, how often does your mind drift into worry? Worrying about things you can't actually control, or imagining negative outcomes. And maybe reflect. Could those moments of worry, even the subtle ones, be quietly stealing moments of joy or connection or just simple peace from your day?
And what might it feel like to try that simple interrupt, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, followed by a question about gratitude? What moments could you reclaim?